Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're choosing to do this video. Hopefully you've been waking up during this time and doing your algebra homework. Today we're going to learn a lesson about completing the square. What does that mean, complete the square? One of the things we should be reminded of factoring that we were doing before all this happened and we had this whole COVID-19 thing going on. But factoring, when we see a problem like this, x squared plus 8x plus 16, we remember that we factor. To get x squared, we would take x times x, that's our x squared, and then we look at 16, and what we did before is we said, what numbers multiply to get us 16? Well, as the motorcycle goes by, 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. And we figure out it must be 4 and 4 because the two numbers that we need have to add up to 8. So we make it a positive 4 and a positive 4. Now, what we've done here, we've got what's called a completed square because we could write this as x plus 4 to the second power, x plus 4 squared. That's supposed to be a little 2 up there. Now, the same thing would be true over here of this one. This one is a completed square. We can probably come up with this one a little bit faster. We have x times x. And to get 25, well, 25 could be 5 times 5. But how are we going to get it worked out so that it's negative 10? The way we would do that is a minus 5 and a minus 5. Because negative 5 times negative 5, that gets us a positive 25. And negative 5 plus negative 5 gets us a negative 10. So what we get here is a completed square. We get x minus 5 squared. Now that's going to be one of our goals today with one other step of a little more complicated situation. Okay, so we're going to look at part A. Now, we've got 4 problems in the notes that we're going to do. Then I'm going to do a couple problems out of the homework to get us going on this. Okay, we're going to learn how to set up a problem where we can complete the square. This problem won't factor like the 2 that I did before. We want to make it be able to factor like those. So the first thing we're going to do whenever we see a problem, notice we've got an A term, a B term, and a C term. If I were to identify, A is 1, B is negative 8, and C is negative 12. Those are our 3 terms. And the B term is going to be very important to our problem, that negative 8. But one of the first steps to do a problem where you're going to complete the square is I'm going to take the first 2 terms. I'm going to take x squared minus 8x, and I'm going to separate it a little bit. So I always tell students we're going to put a blank there. So I'm going to put a blank in that spot, and then I'm going to put a minus 12, and then I'm going to put another blank here. Okay, so those 2 blanks, we're going to talk about those and what we need to do. But we have our B term is negative 8. So here's the rule to figure out what goes into the blank. The goal here is going to be to fill out the blank. So we take the B term, we divide it by 2, and then we square it. That's what's going to go into the blank. So our B term is negative 8. If we divide it by 2, we get negative 4. And then we square that, we get 16. So the number that we need to put into our blank is a positive 16 into that blank. Now we always make our problem work out so that we're really not adding anything. These 2 values, a negative 16 and a positive 16, we put those in where they would cancel each other out. So negative 16 and positive 16 becomes 0. And now these 3 terms here, we're going to factor them. So we get x and x and negative 4, negative 4. So see, over here, when we divided these two, -8 and 2, we got a -4. That's always going to be the value that these two factor into. So this term here, this becomes a factorable completed square. We get x minus 4 times x minus 4, which I'm going to write as x minus 4 squared. Now these last two, these two values, we just simply combine them. We get -28. -12 minus 16 is -28. So we just put that -28 on the end. And that is a completed square. Okay. So now, right now, I know what you're probably feeling. You're probably feeling, oh, that's a little confusing. But we're just going to apply these steps here. We've got an A term, a B term, and a C term. Our B is positive 14. Okay, so here's the steps again in a little more slow fashion, or the same slow fashion. X squared plus 14x, and I'm going to put a blank. Then that 50 is in the problem, then I'm going to put another blank. Okay, so those are the first steps. The first steps are to take the A and the B term, just separate them with a blank, and then do this. What we have to do is we have to try to figure out what would complete the square for this problem, so that if I factor these three things, what could I turn into a completed square? Or how could I factor it where it's x and the same value? Okay, so to figure out that value, first take your B term, cut it in half. Okay, when you cut it in half, you get a positive 7. Now guess what? That's the value that's going to go into here. So this is going to be plus 7 and plus 7. But we need to figure out what goes into the blank. What goes into the blank is you need to take that value and you need to square it. When you square it, you get a positive 49. So into this blank, I'm going to put a positive 49. Now to this blank, I can't just add 49 out of nowhere. So what I have to do in this blank is I have to subtract 49. Okay? So this factors to x plus 7. So I'm going to write it as what we call a completed square, x plus 7 squared. And then 50 minus 49 is a positive 1. These two, I'm just going to put those together. And at the end, I have positive 1. That's our answer. So now, the next problem. If you've printed out the notes, there's an annoying little 2 in there. And I don't mean to do those right now. I don't want to take things too fast. So I'm going to scribble out the 2. And we're going to do this problem without that 2 in there, okay? So if you want to take a moment, pause the video, try this one. I think it'd be beneficial, like we do kind of when we're in class. But now I'm going to go on as if you've tried it. We're going to first take it. We're going to go x squared plus 12x. We're going to write those first two things, and we're going to put a blank. Then we're going to write minus 18 and another blank. And we have to figure out what goes in the blank. Okay? Down below, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to this to factor to x and something else with an x in it. Okay, so how do I figure out where these things go? You take your B term. Our B term is a positive 12. You divide it by 2, and you will get a positive 6. Okay, now that actually, it's kind of working ahead. It already tells me what this is going to be. This is going to be x plus 6 and x plus 6. But I take whatever value I get there, and I square it, and I get 36. So I'm going to put that 36 in the blank. In order to make this work, see, 6 plus 6 gets me 12. 6 times 6 gets me 36. I need to put a 36 in that blank. And over here, what I need to do is put a minus 36. Negative 18 minus 36 is negative 54. That needs to go at the end. I just simply combine those. They're like terms. Now, why did I put a negative 36 there? Again, these two have to add up to 0. I can't just add 36. I have to subtract 36. It has to come from somewhere. 36 and negative 36 wouldn't change the problem at all. Now I write this as x plus 6 squared minus 54, and we've completed the square on that problem. Go ahead, pause the video, try this one, except on this next one, you'll notice there's a little annoying -3, I believe. I'm going to scribble out the -3. We're going to look at some of those in the lesson next week. Okay, so if you would, try to complete the square on this one. Okay, x squared plus 18x, I'm going to put a blank. So plus 20, another blank. And we get 18, which is our b term, divided by 2 is 9. Okay, that's what is going to go in here. It's going to be a positive 9. X plus 9 times x plus 9. Now, what's 9 times 9? If you square that, that's 81. That's what needs to go in the blank. If I put 81 in that blank, I have to put a -81 in this blank. I can't just pull 81 out of nowhere. Those two numbers have to add up to 0. And then I'm going to combine these two, and we're going to get -61. And now my answer is x plus 9 squared minus 61. Okay. So now a little homework help. You can watch this tomorrow if you want, but I just thought it'd be helpful to put it in the same worksheet. So we're going to look at number 1 and number 6. If you want more help than that, please feel free to email. Okay, so number 1, we've got x squared plus 4x. We're going to leave a blank, put -5, and then another blank. So I take the b term. The b term is 4. I divide by 2, and then I square it. It gets me a positive 2 squared is 4. So what's got to go in the blank is a positive 4 and a -4. Now, if I were to factor this positive 2 over here is how it would factor. It would factor to x plus 2 and x plus 2. I'm going to write it over here. The reason I'm writing it over there, I want to see if it gets me this. So I'm going to multiply it. X times x, x squared. X times 2, 2x. Then 2 times x, 2x. 2 times 2 plus 4. We get x squared plus 4x plus 4. But notice, see that positive 4 right there? That was needed to make this thing work. Now, I don't need you to write all this stuff. All I need you to do is go x plus 2 squared. So eventually students learn some shortcuts. They just learn, oh, that's going to be x plus 2 squared minus 9. All right, let's try number 6. Go ahead and try it. But here's number 6. Again, you can pause the video at any time to give yourself time to work. I don't do that. The longer we make these files, the less chance I have that they upload to YouTube. So x squared minus 20x blank plus 12. What goes in the blank? I have a -20 divided by 2, and I have to square it. -20 divided by 2 is -10, and squared is 100. One of the key patterns you'll notice, the first blank is always going to be plus something. The second blank is always going to be minus something when we're doing these. Okay, now this would factor to x minus 10, because this value 10 in here, it's half of the 20 squared. Put these two together, -88. And that's where you stop for today. We're going to learn why we do that in next week's lesson. But this week, we're only having this lesson. We're going to make sure we get caught up. So hi to all my students out there. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're getting caught up. Please email me if you have any issues. Take care. Hope to see you again this year. If we don't, let's finish the year strong. We will be having a semester test. It will be fairly short. It will be near the end of the same time of the school year. They haven't given us all the instructions, but I hope to get those to you soon. Take care.